Benjamin is a Navy SEAL. Shake this man's hand.
I think I gotta leave. Whoa. I think I gotta leave this thing right here. Don't touch it. Like, okay, don't touch it.
Doesn't matter. Goes off.
All right. I kind of found out that I was speaking here yesterday, and just to be sitting here on Battery Park talking about 9/11, something that has changed my life. As you know, I was a SEAL 6 years, been around the world a few times, South America, Africa, when the war broke out. Spent most of 05 and 06 back and forth to Iraq, with and without the government. But to stand here and see this right here, this signifies something to me when I see this. You know, yes, it's a piece of art, it's special, it's nice, but the thing is, when I see this, the first thing that comes to my mind is that day, many years ago, when Islamic extremists, Muslim jihad, was brought to this country, brought to the shores of New York City, and slammed into two of those buildings right up there that would be in that skyline right now. You see smoke billowing, people jumping out of the windows, falling almost 1,000 feet to their deaths. There's even answering machine messages where they were talking to their family on the way down. Lots of strife, lots of things. Everything that has happened almost in the past 10 years is signified by this angel. And the metal that is here has been fraught with the blood, sweat, and tears of America. The blood of the people that were in the building, the sweat and the tears, the sweat of the people who were cleaning it up, all the sickness involved, everything that's going on. When you see this, you should remember that day in clear emotion. You should not be happy. You should get that pit in your stomach and that feeling in your chest where you are sorry for what happened, but you were also proud to be Americans. It is a special time. Also with the sweat and the tears of all the American servicemen and the wars that have been fought since against a tide that is coming against America. But with the tears of the military, I want to bring up our next speaker. Her name is Debbie Lee. Her son gave the ultimate price. He laid his life down willingly for his platoon. He was the first Navy SEAL killed in Iraq. This lady right here, Debbie Lee, I hold my manhood cheap in front of her. But guys, this is all about 9/11, its significance to you guys, and just paying homage to everything that has happened since. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. I have been to New York several different times since my son willingly gave his life. And each time I make sure I walk up to Ground Zero that I can remember. I remember that morning I was living in Oregon, and I turned on my computer and I saw that a plane had run into the tower. My background's aerospace science, and it said on AOL, it said a small airplane. And so I thought probably it was a student pilot, that something tragically had happened and he was misguided and ran into the towers. I went and turned my TV on and saw the stark reality that it was not a small plane, that had been hit by a large jetliner. And again, I questioned, how could the pilot have done that? Was it mechanical error? What happened? And as I watched before my eyes, I watched that scene. And I knew at that moment, my only son Christopher was serving in the Marines. My son-in-law Christopher was in the Army. Mark was in the Navy, and my brother was in the Air Force. I knew at that moment this would be very personal, that I would have a loved one that would probably be deployed. And I was proud of all of my sons and my brother who were willing to fight, who had stood up before 9/11 to even say, I love this country and I will defend her with my life if need be. And I'm very proud of all of them. Thank you, Beth. I'm the founder of America's Mighty Warriors. Mark's name meant mighty warrior, and I'm sure once you hear his story, you will agree he definitely lived up to his name. But it is not just about Mark. It is about each and every one of the men and women who have served, who've sacrificed, and their families, and especially the families of the fallen. So if you're here today and you've served this country, or you're a family member, would you please raise your hand high so we can thank you? Thank you. You know, those men and women in the military took it personal to defend what happened to us. I walked up there again this morning, and to know that was the place where this all started, where the sacrifices that were made, as Ben talked about, those that we watched that jumped out of those windows, all those that fell that day. We will never forget those lives that were taken from us that day. We will never forget those men and women who sacrificed to defend each one of those and to defend the attack on us that day. The day that my son willingly gave his life was August 2nd, 2006. It was 115, 120 degrees in Ramadi, Iraq that day. They had been in an intense firefight. For 2 hours they had been under heavy fire. Mark stood about 6 foot tall. He weighed about 200 pounds. But he was the big gunner. He carried the M60. So he carried anywhere from 150 to 180 pounds in addition to his own weight. I just returned from Iraq in June. I felt the 115, 120 degree temperatures. I wore the body armor and the helmet, but I can guarantee you I was not out there fighting like our men and women do. I was sitting in a C-130. I sat there for an hour and was wondering if at any minute I was going to pass out from heat exhaustion. I cannot even begin to imagine enduring that heat for that long, carrying that amount of weight. There were 4 of the SEALs that were up on the rooftop. Mark's buddy Ryan had been severely injured, and they could tell by looking at him it didn't look good. They didn't know if he would survive the next few moments. 2 of the SEALs immediately dropped to their knees to help Ryan. Mark could have made that very same choice. But Mark was the big gunner, and he knew his responsibility, and he knew the right thing to do was to stand up and provide the cover so they could get a medic up to the roof. The medic got up there and he took one look at Ryan and said, "We've got to get Ryan out of here immediately, or there's no chance for survival." So not once, but a second time, this young man made the choice to stand up into the heavy fire to provide the cover so they could get down off of that roof. They all successfully did get down off that roof, and they went back to the base. And I'm proud to tell you that today in Ramadi, Iraq, there's a base named Camp Mark Lee after this young man. The chief came into the base and he said, "We just found 30 of the insurgents that just attacked us. Are you guys up to going back out?" My first trip to Iraq, I had the privilege of visiting Camp Mark Lee. And I know that on the other side of Camp Mark Lee, there's a Marine base. And if they'd asked me, I'd have said, go find some of the Marines who are fresh and who are ready for battle, who haven't been out in the last 24 hours. But that wasn't the character of this young man, nor is that the character of the Navy SEALs. Mark looked at his chief and he looked him in the eye and he said, "Roger that, let's go get him." So they went back into Ramadi. They cleared several houses, and they went in the last house Mark would be in. They cleared the bottom of the house and they started to go up the steps when they heard Mark yell, "On me!" And if you served, you knew that meant he was going to take the lead and they were to follow. And as they went up the steps, they drew fire through a window. For the last and final time, Mark made the choice again to turn into that line of fire to defend his buddies. But he didn't do that just for his buddies. He did that for each one of us in America. He did that for our freedoms. He did that for this country that he so loves. I'm so proud of that young man. I miss him very deeply. But when I walk back to that hallowed ground over there, and I remember those lives that were taken from us by the terrorists, I'm so proud of each and every one of our family members and our loved ones who stood up and said, "I will defend this country that I love so greatly. I will defend our freedoms." And I've committed my life to making sure those men and women know that they are loved, they're appreciated, that we honor them and the sacrifices that they make. This young man gave up all of his tomorrows so that we could have our todays. And I'm here thankful for the today I have and for the voice I have, and I will continue to use that voice to make sure that our freedoms are not taken away from us from our government, and that our men and women are taken care of and they're honored and they're thanked for their sacrifice. So again, if you served, thank you so much and God bless you.